I once thought family meant forever. I believed my brother would always support me. I was wrong. Sometimes, those who should love you most are the ones who betray you. The hurt was deeper than any knife, but my brother never saw it coming when I found Dad's note. When I did, everything changed. The morning I signed the papers for my first house was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I remember standing in the realtor's office, pen in hand, my heart beating so fast I could barely breathe. At 26, I was finally buying my place in Nashville. It was a cozy 2-bedroom with a front porch. I could drink coffee there and watch the sunrise. "Congratulations, Ms. Reed," the realtor said, sliding the papers toward me. "You're now a homeowner." I'd worked so hard for this moment. 3 years of double shifts at the hospital where I worked as a nurse. Countless birthday parties and vacations were missed because I was saving every penny. Dad had been so proud when I told him my plan. "Amanda," he'd said, "you're the smart one in this family, always have been." Dad died 4 months before I found my dream house. Cancer took him fast, diagnosed in January, gone by April. I missed him every day, but as I signed those papers, I felt him there with me, smiling. That feeling didn't last long. I drove straight to my mom's house after the signing. She'd been living alone since Dad died, and I tried to visit her at least 3 times a week. My brother Marcus lived across town with his wife, Jen, and their 2 kids. He was older than me by 4 years, always the responsible one, the successful one, the favorite. When I walked through Mom's front door, waving my new house keys, I expected hugs and maybe some champagne. Instead, I found Marcus sitting at the kitchen table, a stack of papers in front of him, and Mom crying in the corner. "What's going on?" I asked, my keys still jangling in my hand. Marcus looked up at me with eyes I didn't recognize, cold, distant, angry. "Sit down, Amanda," he said, his voice steady. I didn't like his tone, but I sat anyway. "Is everything okay? Mom, why are you crying?" Mom wouldn't look at me. She kept wiping her eyes with a tissue that had been shredded from overuse. Marcus pushed some papers toward me. "I've been helping Mom organize Dad's finances, getting his affairs in order, and I found something interesting." I looked down at the papers, bank statements, Dad's accounts. 3 weeks before Dad died, Marcus continued, someone transferred $25,000 out of his savings account. I nodded slowly. "Okay, and 2 weeks ago, you put down exactly $25,000 on your new house." The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I could feel it burning my lungs, making it hard to breathe. "Wait, what are you saying?" I asked, though I already knew. "It's pretty obvious what I'm saying, Amanda." Marcus leaned forward, his eyes never leaving mine. "You preyed on Dad when he was dying. You took his money." The words hit me like a physical blow. I gasped. That's insane. I saved that money. I worked double shifts for 3 years." "Then where are your bank statements showing that?" Marcus asked, his voice eerily calm. "Because I checked. Your savings account never had more than $10,000 in it." My mind raced. How did he access my account information? Why was he investigating me? "I had many accounts," I stammered. "I kept money in different places, for safety." Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Classic. You get caught, and suddenly there are many accounts that conveniently explain everything." "Marcus, I didn't steal from Dad. I would never do that." Mom finally spoke, her voice small and broken. "Then how do you explain the transfer, Amanda? It came from your father's account, the same amount, at the same time." I felt cornered, trapped. How could I explain what I didn't understand? "I don't know what happened with Dad's account, but I saved my own money. I swear it." Marcus shook his head, looking at Mom. "She's lying. She's always been good at that." He turned back to me. "Dad was barely conscious those last few weeks. You saw an opportunity and you took it." "No," I slammed my hand on the table. "I would never steal from him. How can you even think that?" "Because I have proof," Marcus said, tapping the papers. "The bank doesn't make mistakes like this." I turned to Mom, desperate. "Mom, you know me. You know I wouldn't do this." Mom's face crumpled. "I don't know what to believe anymore, Amanda. The evidence, it looks bad." Something cold settled in my stomach. My mother thought I was capable of stealing from my dying father. "What do you want me to do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Pay it back," Marcus said simply. Return the money to the estate. It's supposed to be split between us, not taken by you. I don't have it, it went to the house. Then sell the house. I stared at him. I bought it today, I can't sell it. Then you should have thought of that before you stole from our father. Marcus gathered the papers, neatly tapping them into a stack. I've already talked to a lawyer. If you don't return the money, we'll press charges. Charges? My voice broke. You'd have me arrested, over a misunderstanding. Theft isn't a misunderstanding, Amanda. It's a crime. I looked at Mom again, silently begging her to defend me. She shook her head, tears still falling. I can't believe this is happening, I whispered. Believe it, Marcus said, standing up. You have 1 week to figure out how you're going to pay back the money, or things will get ugly. He left the room, and I heard his car start a few minutes later. I sat there with Mom in silence, the weight of what had happened crushing me. I didn't do it, Mom, I said finally. I swear on Dad's memory. Mom looked at me, her eyes red and swollen. Then where did the money come from, Amanda? Where? I didn't have an answer, and that terrified me. I left Mom's house in a daze. The keys to my new home felt heavy in my pocket, like they were made of guilt instead of metal. How had the happiest day of my life turned into this nightmare? When I got to my apartment, I went straight to my filing cabinet and pulled out all my bank statements. I had to prove I saved the money. But as I flipped through the papers, my heart sank. Marcus was right about one thing: my main savings account never showed more than $10,000, because I'd been keeping the rest in cash, in a safe in my closet. Cash that I'd deposited all at once 2 weeks ago to make the down payment. Cash that I couldn't prove I'd saved up over 3 years. I sat on my bedroom floor, surrounded by useless papers, and finally let myself cry. If you're feeling as stunned as I was in that moment, maybe take a second to hit that like button. I didn't know it then, but this was the beginning of a mystery that would change everything I thought I knew about my family. Leave a comment if you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted. Sometimes it helps to know we're not alone in these moments. The next week passed in a blur of panic and desperate planning. I couldn't sell the house. Not only had I just bought it, but it was my dream. The place where I planned to build my future. But I also couldn't magically produce $25,000 to pay back money I hadn't stolen. I tried calling Marcus several times. He either sent me to voicemail or answered just long enough to ask if I had the money yet. Mom wasn't much better. She'd answer my calls, but our talks felt tense. There were long silences and weak reassurances that everything will work out somehow. I could tell she still wasn't sure if she believed me. On the 6th day after Marcus's ultimatum, I decided to do something drastic. I needed to understand where that money came from. If I didn't take it, who did? And why did it end up looking like I was the culprit? I drove to Dad's house, Mom's house now. I had to keep reminding myself, early in the morning when I knew she'd be at her weekly hair appointment. I still had a key, and though it felt strange using it without permission, I was desperate. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. The bank statements Dad had kept, maybe some explanation for the transfer. I started in his home office, carefully going through drawers and filing cabinets. Nothing seemed unusual or helpful. After an hour of searching, I moved to the garage. Dad had spent most of his time there in his last few years, tinkering with his tools and working on small woodworking projects. It was his sanctuary. The garage smelled like him, a mixture of sawdust, motor oil, and the peppermint candies he always kept in his pocket. I stood there for a moment, breathing it in, missing him so much it hurt. Then I got to work. I checked the drawers of his workbench. I looked through old coffee cans full of screws and nails. I even checked inside the power tools, wondering if Dad might have hidden something important in a place no one would think to look. Nothing. I was about to give up when I noticed his old red toolbox sitting on a shelf. It was the toolbox his father had given him when he was 18. Dad treasured it but rarely used the tools inside anymore. They were old, some of them rusty, and kept more for sentimental value than practical use. I lifted it down and set it on the workbench. It was heavier than I expected. When I opened it, I found the usual assortment of wrenches, screwdrivers, and pliers, all neatly arranged. I don't know what made me turn the toolbox over. A feeling, I guess. But when I did, I noticed something unusual. a small envelope taped to the bottom of the box. My heart started racing as I carefully peeled off the tape and opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded once. Dad's handwriting, shaky but unmistakable, filled the page. "My dear Amanda," it began, and I had to sit down, my legs suddenly weak. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and I need to explain something important. I've transferred $25,000 from my savings account into yours. This is not a loan, it's a gift. Your gift. I know how hard you've been working to save for a house, and I want to help make that happen. You deserve it, sweetheart." Tears blurred my vision as I kept reading. "Marcus won't understand this decision. He thinks money should always be split exactly equally between you two. I've helped him a lot over the years. I paid for his wedding, assisted with his house down payment, and covered Jen's medical bills when the twins were born. It's your turn now." I wiped my eyes, my hands shaking. "I made the transfer myself on April 2nd. The money should be in your account already. Use it for your house, Amanda. Build the life you deserve. I'm so proud of the woman you've become. All my love, Dad." April 2nd, 3 days before he died, when he was still lucid, still able to make decisions. I checked the bottom of the page. There it was, Dad's signature along with the date. It was real. It was proof. The relief I felt was overwhelming. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't a thief. Dad had given me that money as a gift, exactly as he explained in the note. But then confusion set in. Why didn't I know about this gift? Why didn't the money show up in my account? I read the note again, and this time something caught my eye. "I've transferred $25,000 from my savings account into yours." Not "I will transfer," but "I've transferred." Past tense. Dad thought the money was already in my account when he wrote the note. So where did it go? I carefully folded the note and put it in my pocket. This changed everything, but I still didn't have the full picture. As I was putting the toolbox back on the shelf, I heard the garage door open. My heart stopped. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" It was Mom, home early from her hair appointment. "Mom, I was looking through some of Dad's things. I miss him." It wasn't a complete lie. Mom looked around the garage, suspicious. "You should have asked first. Some of these things might be valuable." "I'm sorry," I said, stepping away from the shelf. "I should have called." Mom nodded, still looking uncertain. "Were you looking for something specific?" I hesitated. Should I tell her about the note? Show her the proof? But something held me back. If Marcus had somehow intercepted Dad's gift to me, who knew what else he might have done? I needed more information before I showed my hand. "No, just memories, I guess." I forced a smile. "I should go." "Wait," Mom said, her expression softening. "Have you figured out what to do about the money?" I looked at her, this woman who had raised me, who should know me better than anyone. How could she doubt me? "I'm working on it," I said simply. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept reading Dad's note over and over, trying to piece together what happened. Dad had transferred the money. He thought it went to my account, but I never received it. And somehow, mysteriously, the same amount ended up in my account right before I bought the house. There was only one explanation that made sense. Someone had intercepted that money. Someone who had access to Dad's accounts. Someone who could move that money around without raising suspicion. Marcus. But why, and how could I prove it? The next morning, I called in sick to work and went to my bank. I needed to understand exactly how that $25,000 had appeared in my account. The bank manager, Mrs. Patel, had known me for years. She pulled up my account history on her computer. "Here it is," she said, pointing to the screen. "A wire transfer on April 16th for $25,000. "Where did it come from?" I asked, leaning forward. "It came from, that's interesting." She clicked a few more buttons. "It came from your brother's account, Marcus Reed." I sat back stunned. "My brother's account, you're sure?" "Yes, it says right here. Marcus Reed transferred $25,000 to your account on April 16th. The pieces started falling into place. Dad transfers money to me. Marcus somehow intercepts it. Then, 2 weeks after Dad dies, Marcus transfers the same amount to my account. Why? To make it look like I stole it. But I still didn't understand how, or why Marcus would do this to me. "Mrs. Patel, I need one more favor," I said. Can you check when my brother opened his account here?" She looked surprised by the question but checked anyway. "It looks like April 3rd, last month." April 3rd, one day after Dad made the transfer, one day before Dad died. I thanked Mrs. Patel and left the bank, my mind racing. Marcus had never banked at my bank before. He'd opened an account there specifically on April 3rd. Why? It had to be connected to Dad's money. I needed more information, and I knew where to get it. That afternoon, I drove to Dad's attorney's office. Mr. Grayson had handled Dad's legal affairs for decades. If anyone knew about Dad's financial decisions near the end, it would be him. Mr. Grayson looked surprised to see me, but he invited me into his office anyway. "Amanda, what can I do for you?" he asked, gesturing for me to sit. "I need to know if my dad made any changes to his will or his finances before he died," I said, getting straight to the point. Mr. Grayson's eyebrows went up. "May I ask why?" I hesitated, then decided to be honest. I found a note from Dad saying he transferred money to me as a gift, but I never received it, and now Marcus is accusing me of stealing that same amount. Mr. Grayson leaned back in his chair, his expression grave. "I see. So did Dad mention anything to you about a gift for me?" "Actually, yes." Mr. Grayson pulled out a file. "Your father came to see me on April 1st. He wanted to make sure the gift was properly documented for tax purposes. We prepared a gift letter, and he signed it." My heart leaped. "Do you have a copy?" "I should," he said, flipping through the file. Then he frowned. "That's odd, it's not here." "What do you mean?" "The gift letter should be in this file, but it's missing." He checked again. "I prepared it. Your father signed it right here in this office." "When was the last time you saw it?" I asked. Mr. Grayson thought for a moment. "Marcus came by about a week after your father passed away. He wanted to review all the documents related to the estate. I gave him this file to look through." A chill ran through me. "Did he give it back to you?" "Yes, but..." Mr. Grayson's face changed as understanding dawned. He could have removed documents before returning them. Like a gift letter showing Dad gave me $25,000 legally. "Exactly." I showed him Dad's note. "I found this hidden in Dad's toolbox. He must have put it there in case something went wrong." Mr. Grayson read it carefully. "This corroborates what I remember. Your father was very explicit about wanting to give you this money for a house. So what happened to it? How did Marcus get involved?" Mr. Grayson sighed. "I can only guess. If Marcus had your father's banking info, he might have redirected the transfer." "But why would he do that? Why would he try to make me look like a thief?" "That," Mr. Grayson said gently, "is something only Marcus can answer." I left Mr. Grayson's office with a copy of Dad's note and a letter from him confirming that he had prepared a gift document that was now missing. It wasn't definitive proof of what Marcus had done, but it was a start. Back at my apartment, I tried to piece everything together. The timeline was becoming clear. April 1st, Dad visits his lawyer to document a gift to me. April 2nd, Dad transfers $25,000 to me and writes a note explaining it. April 3rd, Marcus somehow intercepts the money and opens an account at my bank. April 5th, Dad dies. April 16th, Marcus transfers $25,000 to my account, making it look like I took the money after Dad died. But why? What did Marcus gain from this elaborate scheme? I decided to dig deeper. If Marcus had taken other documents from Mr. Grayson's file, what else might he have hidden or altered? The next day was Saturday. I knew Marcus and his family would be at their kids' soccer games all morning. It was my chance to search his house. I felt sick about it. Breaking into my brother's home, who had I become? But I needed answers, and I couldn't trust him to give them to me. I still had a key to their house from when I house sat for them last summer. I let myself in, my heart pounding so loud I was sure the neighbors could hear it. I went straight to Marcus's home office. If he had hidden documents, they'd be there. The office was immaculate, everything in its place. Marcus had always been obsessively organized. I started with the filing cabinet, carefully going through each folder, making sure to return everything exactly as I found it. Nothing unusual in the first drawer, nothing in the second. By the third drawer, I was losing hope. Then I found a folder labeled Dad Private. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were bank statements, letters, and legal documents, all related to Dad. And there, right on top, was the missing gift letter Mr. Grayson had prepared. It clearly stated that Thomas Reed, my father, was gifting Amanda Reed, me, $25,000 to buy a home. But that wasn't all. There was another document that made my blood run cold. A power of attorney form, dated April 3rd, giving Marcus full control over Dad's finances. The signature at the bottom looked like Dad's, but something was off about it. It was too neat, too steady for a man who was so ill his hands shook when he wrote the note I found. I took pictures of everything with my phone. I needed evidence of what I'd found. As I was carefully returning the documents to the folder, I heard a sound that made my heart stop. The front door opening. "Hello, is someone here?" Marcus's voice. He was home early. I quietly closed the drawer and looked around frantically. There was no way out of the office except past the front door, where Marcus was standing. "Hello," his voice was closer now. I could hear him walking down the hallway toward the office. I had seconds to decide what to do: hide, pretend I got there, run. But before I could move, the office door swung open. Marcus stood there, staring at me with shock that quickly turned to anger. "Amanda, what the hell are you doing in my house?" I decided in that moment that offense was my best defense. "Looking for the truth," I said, my voice steadier than I expected, and I found it. Marcus's face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I held up my phone, showing him the picture I'd taken of the gift letter. "Dad gave me that money, Marcus, legally, with documentation. You knew it all along. You broke into my house." His voice was dangerously quiet. "You went through my private files. Because you stole from me?" I was shouting now, years of being the quiet, good little sister evaporating in my rage. "You took the money Dad meant for me, then made it look like I stole it. You forged a power of attorney to take control of his accounts." Marcus stepped closer, his face twisting with an anger I'd never seen before. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't I? April 2nd, Dad transfers money to me. April 3rd, you mysteriously open an account at my bank and somehow that money ends up there instead. April 5th, Dad dies. Then you wait until I'm about to buy a house and suddenly transfer that exact amount to me so it looks like I took it after he died." I was trembling, but not from fear, from fury. "Why, Marcus? Why would you do this to me?" For a moment, I thought he might deny it all, but then something changed in his face. A coldness settled there. "You were always his favorite," he said, his voice flat. "Always. No matter what I accomplished, no matter how much I helped him and Mom, he always had a soft spot for his baby girl." "That's not true," I said, though part of me knew it was. Dad and I had always been close in a way that Dad and Marcus weren't. "He paid for my wedding," Marcus continued, "but complained about the cost. He helped with our house but made it a loan, not a gift. Jen's medical bills, he covered them but reminded me every chance he got. But you, he gives you $25,000, no strings attached, for a house you don't even need." "I worked for that house," I said. "For 3 years I saved every penny." "And I've worked my whole life to take care of this family," Marcus shouted. "I'm the one who helped Mom after he got sick. I'm the one who organized his care. I'm the one who dealt with the funeral, the bills, everything. And what were you doing? Working your shifts and coming by when it was convenient." The unfairness of his words stung. I'd done everything I could for Dad while working full-time. I'd spent nights at the hospital when Marcus couldn't be bothered to leave work. I'd helped Mom clean the house, do the shopping, and get to her appointments. "That's not fair, and you know it," I said quietly. "Life's not fair, Amanda," Marcus gestured around his office. "I have a mortgage, 2 kids heading to college someday, a wife who can't work full-time because of her health. What do you have? A cat, an apartment, no real responsibilities. So you decided to steal from me, to make me look like a thief to our mother." "I decided to correct an injustice," Marcus said coldly. "That money should have been split between us. That's what's fair." "It was Dad's money. He could do what he wanted with it." "He wasn't thinking clearly by the end. You know that." I shook my head, disgusted. He was clear enough to visit his lawyer, clear enough to write me a note explaining his gift. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "What note?" I pulled Dad's note from my pocket and held it up. "This note, the one he hid where he knew I'd eventually find it, because somewhere deep down, he knew you might try something like this. Marcus reached for the note, but I pulled it back. You've taken enough from me. We stood there, staring at each other, two strangers who happened to share blood. What are you going to do? He finally asked. I'm going to take back what's mine, I said, and then I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. No one will believe you, he said, but I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. They will when I show them this note, and the gift letter you stole, and the power of attorney with Dad's forged signature. And when I tell them how the money magically went from Dad to your new account to mine, timed perfectly to make me look guilty. Marcus's face hardened. Get out of my house. Gladly, I said, walking past him. At the door, I turned back. You know what the saddest part is? I would have shared that money with you if you'd asked. That's what family does. I left him standing there, the truth finally out in the open between us. That night, I sat in my house, bought with Dad's gift and my savings, and cried for everything I'd lost. Not Dad, but the brother I thought I had, the family I thought I could trust. The next day, I started gathering my evidence. I compiled everything I had learned. Dad's note explaining the gift. Mr. Grayson's statement about the missing gift letter. Photos of the documents I found at Marcus's house. Bank records showing the suspicious timing of the transfers. The power of attorney with the questionable signature. It wasn't about clearing my name anymore. It was about honoring Dad's wishes and making sure Marcus faced consequences for what he'd done. I wasn't the same person I had been 2 weeks ago. The Amanda who signed those house papers was trusting, perhaps naive. She believed in her family above all else. This new Amanda saw things. Amanda was ready to fight back. I spent the next few days preparing my case, organizing my evidence, and steeling my resolve. I knew confronting Marcus in front of the whole family would be painful for everyone, especially Mom. But I couldn't let his lies stand. I couldn't let him take Dad's last gift to me and turn it into something ugly. I called Mom and asked her to host a family dinner. I want to talk about Dad's money, I said. I think I've found a solution. Mom sounded relieved. That's wonderful, honey. I'll call Marcus. On Sunday evening, I drove to Mom's house with my evidence folder tucked into my bag. My hands were steady, my mind clear. I knew what I had to do. When I walked in, Marcus and Jen were already there, sitting on the couch. Mom was in the kitchen, putting the finishing touches on dinner. My Aunt Kathy and Uncle Bill, Dad's sister and brother-in-law, had also come, which was perfect. More witnesses to the truth. Marcus barely looked at me when I came in. He'd been avoiding my calls since our confrontation at his house. During dinner, the conversation stayed on safe topics: the weather, the kids' soccer games, and Aunt Kathy's garden. No one mentioned the elephant in the room, the accusation hanging over my head, the deadline Marcus had given me that had now passed. Finally, as Mom served coffee and pie for dessert, Aunt Kathy broached the subject. Amanda, your mom mentioned there was something about Thomas's estate you wanted to discuss. I took a deep breath. This was it. Yes, there's been a misunderstanding about some money Dad left me. Marcus's head snapped up. It wasn't left to you, it was taken by you. Marcus, Mom said, her voice tired. Let's hear what Amanda has to say. I reached into my bag and pulled out my folder. I have proof that Dad gave me $25,000 as a gift while he was alive. It was intended to help me buy my house. That's ridiculous, Marcus scoffed. If that were true, there would be documentation. There is, I said calmly, pulling out the photo of the gift letter I'd found in his office. This gift letter, which Dad signed at Mr. Grayson's office on April 1st. The same letter that mysteriously disappeared from Mr. Grayson's files after Marcus reviewed them. I handed copies to everyone at the table. Marcus's face had gone white. And then there's this, I continued, taking out Dad's note. A letter Dad wrote me explaining the gift. He hid it in his toolbox where he knew I'd eventually find it. I read the note aloud. By the time I finished, Mom was crying again, but these were different tears from before. There's more, I said, meeting Marcus's eyes across the table. Bank records show Dad transferred the money on April 2nd. Records show Marcus opened a new account at my bank on April 3rd, the day before Dad died, where that money somehow ended up. And then, most damning of all, records showing Marcus transferred that exact amount to me 2 weeks later, after Dad had passed, making it look like I took it after death instead of receiving it as a gift before. The table was silent as everyone processed what I was saying. Marcus stared at his plate, his jaw clenched. "Why would Marcus do that?" Aunt Kathy asked, confusion on her face. I considered my words carefully. This wasn't about humiliating Marcus. It was about the truth. "Marcus felt the money should have been split between us," I said simply. "He didn't think it was fair that Dad gave it all to me." "So you intercepted it?" Mom asked Marcus directly, her voice shaking. "You took money your father meant for your sister, then tried to make it look like she stole it." Marcus looked up, his eyes hard. Dad wasn't thinking clearly. He was on heavy medication. He didn't know what he was doing. "He was clear enough to visit his lawyer," I countered. "Clear enough to write me a note explaining everything. Clear enough to make his wishes known." "There's one more thing," I said quietly, pulling out the last document. "A power of attorney, supposedly signed by Dad on April 3rd, giving Marcus control of all his finances. But Dad was so weak by then, his hands shook constantly. The signature on this document is suspiciously steady." Aunt Kathy gasped, "You think it's forged?" "I think it needs to be examined by an expert," I said, looking directly at Marcus. "Along with all these other documents." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus sat frozen, his face a mask of anger and something else, fear. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "You have no idea what I've sacrificed for this family." "This isn't about sacrifice," I said. "It's about honesty. It's about respecting Dad's wishes." "His wishes were wrong," Marcus insisted. "You got everything. You were always his favorite." "That's not true, Marcus," Mom said, her voice gentle but firm. "Your father loved you both equally. He helped you with your wedding, your house, and Jen's medical bills. This gift to Amanda was his way of balancing things, of making sure she had what you already had, a home of her own." Marcus looked at Mom, betrayal in his eyes. "You're taking her side." "I'm taking the side of truth," Mom said. "And the truth is, you lied to me. You made me believe my daughter had stolen from her dying father. How could you do that, Marcus? How could you hurt us like that?" For the first time, I saw Marcus's composure crack. His shoulders slumped, and he seemed to age 10 years in an instant. I thought, he struggled for words, "it wasn't fair." "Life isn't fair," I said, echoing his words from before. "But family is supposed to be honest with each other." Uncle Bill, who had been silent until now, cleared his throat. "What happens now? Will you press charges, Amanda?" I looked at Marcus, my brother. He taught me to ride a bike. He defended me from bullies in elementary school. Now, he felt like a stranger. "That depends on Marcus," I said. "I want 3 things. First, a public apology to me admitting what he did. Second, I got back the full $25,000. It didn't come from Dad's estate but from Marcus's accounts. That's where the money ended up. And third, a promise that he'll seek help. What he did wasn't dishonest. It was calculated and cruel." Marcus stared at me for a long moment, then he nodded once. "Fine." The dinner ended shortly after that. As everyone was leaving, Mom pulled me aside. "I'm so sorry I doubted you," she said, her eyes red from crying. "I should have known better." "It's okay, Mom," I said, hugging her. "Marcus made a convincing case. He always does." "Not anymore," she said firmly. "Never again." Over the next few weeks, Marcus made good on our agreement. He transferred $25,000 to my account from his savings this time. He wrote a lengthy email to the entire extended family explaining what he'd done and apologizing for his actions. And he started seeing a therapist to work through his issues with Dad, with money, and with me. But something had broken between us that couldn't be fixed with money or apologies. The trust was gone. The bond we'd shared as siblings had been severed by his betrayal. I focused on making my new house a home. I planted flowers in the garden, painted the walls, and bought furniture piece by piece. I tried to honor Dad's gift by creating a place he would have been proud of. 3 months after the confrontation at Mom's dinner table, I hosted a housewarming party. I invited friends, coworkers, and neighbors. Mom came, bringing a plant for the porch. Aunt Kathy and Uncle Bill brought wine and cheese. Even Jen came with the kids. She seemed uneasy, caught between loyalty to her husband and recognizing his actions. Marcus didn't come. I hadn't expected him to. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Mom helped me clean up in the kitchen. "It's a lovely home," she said, drying a wine glass. "Your dad would have been so happy to see you here." "I think so too," I said, smiling at the thought. "Have you talked to Marcus at all?" Mom asked cautiously. "No," I admitted. "I'm not ready." "He misses you," she said. "He won't admit it, but I can tell." "I miss who I thought he was," I replied, "not who he turned out to be." Mom nodded, understanding in her eyes. "People can change, Amanda. They can learn from their mistakes." "Maybe," I said, not convinced, "but some things can't be undone." After Mom left, I sat on my front porch with a glass of wine, looking at the stars. I thought about Dad, about the gift he'd given me, and about the note he'd hidden to protect me even after he was gone. My phone buzzed with a text. It was from Marcus. "Your house looks nice," it read. "Jen took pictures." I stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Part of me wanted to say something cutting. Instead, I wrote back. "Thanks, Dad would have liked it." 3 dots appeared as he typed a response, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a message came through. "I'm sorry, Amanda. Not for what I did, but for who I became. I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know that I see now what I did, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." I sat with those words for a long time, letting them sink in. Was this genuine remorse, or another manipulation? I couldn't tell anymore. And that was the saddest part of all. A week later, Mom called to tell me that Marcus had resigned from his position as executor of Dad's estate. He had asked Mr. Grayson to take over instead. "He said he doesn't trust himself with that responsibility anymore," Mom explained. "And he's paying for an audit of everything he's done so far to make sure nothing else was mishandled." It was a gesture, at least, a step toward accountability. The audit revealed that Marcus had been honest about everything else. The only money he had touched was the gift intended for me. In some strange way, that was a relief. The betrayal had limits. 2 months later, I was working in my garden when a truck pulled up in front of my house. 2 men got out and unloaded a beautiful wooden bench. They carried it up to my porch and set it against the wall. "Delivery for Amanda Reed," one of the men said, handing me a clipboard to sign. "I didn't order a bench," I told him, confused. "It's a gift," he explained. "There's a card." After they left, I opened the small envelope attached to the bench. Inside was a card with a few words. "Dad would have made you something better, but this is a start. M." I ran my hand over the smooth wood of the bench. It was exactly the style I would have chosen, perfect for my porch. The gesture touched me in a way I hadn't expected. That evening, I called Marcus for the first time since our confrontation. When he answered, his voice was cautious, uncertain. "Thank you for the bench," I said. "It's perfect." "You're welcome," he replied. "I remembered you talking about wanting somewhere to sit and watch the sunrise." An awkward silence followed. 3 years of mistrust and pain couldn't be erased with one phone call, one gift. "How are you?" I finally asked. "Getting better," he said. "The therapy is. It's hard, but it's helping. I'm understanding things about myself I never wanted to face." "That's good," I said and meant it. "How's the house?" he asked. "It's becoming a home," I told him, slowly but surely. Another silence. "Amanda," Marcus began, his voice breaking slightly. "I know I can never undo what I did, and I know things will never be the same between us, but I want you to know that I'm trying to be someone Dad would have been proud of, someone you could maybe trust again someday." I thought about Dad's note, about his belief in me, and about his wish for me to have a home of my own. And I thought about Marcus, my brother, flawed and human, and trying to find his way back. "Someday," I said softly, "maybe someday." The next morning, I sat on the new bench and watched the sunrise, thinking about family and forgiveness and the long road ahead. Marcus and I would never have had the easy relationship we had as children. Too much had happened. Too many lines had been crossed. But as I sat there in the home that Dad had helped make possible, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Hope that broken things could mend, even if they'd never be quite the same. Hope that the truth, painful as it was, could set us all free to become something new. Dad's last gift wasn't the money for my house. It was the truth that his note revealed. A truth changed everything. It brought secrets to light. It broke what had to break, allowing something stronger to grow. They say blood is thicker than water. But sometimes blood carries poison, and you have to let it flow away before healing can begin. My brother betrayed me in a way I never thought possible. He took what wasn't his, lied to those we loved, and nearly destroyed my reputation in the process. The revenge I sought wasn't about making him suffer. It was about bringing truth to light, about honoring Dad's wishes, about reclaiming my name and my future. In the end, Marcus lost more than money. He lost the trust of our family. He lost his image as the responsible one, the reliable one. He lost the story he'd been telling himself about who he was. But maybe, in losing all that, he found something more valuable, the truth about himself, the chance to become someone better. As for me, I gained more than a house. I gained clarity, strength, the knowledge that I could face betrayal and survive it, that I could stand up for myself even when it meant standing alone. Dad's note changed everything, not because it proved my innocence, but because it showed me that sometimes the most important truths are the ones we have to fight for, the ones that others try to bury. I still sit on that bench every morning. I watch the sun rise over my little house on Maple Street, sometimes about the brother I had. Other times, I dream of my brother again someday, but I always think about Dad. He understood me well. He didn't leave money for a house. Instead, he gave me proof of his love and trust. He showed me I was worth fighting for. That's a gift worth more than any amount of money, and no one can ever take it away. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever had to fight for your truth or stand up to family who betrayed you, please consider subscribing to this channel. There are so many stories like mine out there, stories of betrayal and resilience, of fighting back and finding peace. Stories that remind us we're never alone, even in our darkest moments. Thank you for listening to mine.